Good evening. My name is Deirdre Cross, and I'm the Director of the Office of Public Programs here at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here to tonight's NMAAHC Live, a conversation between Ernie Isley and Bill Banfield program. This event is part of the museum's Signatures program series, which brings together artists and scholars for great exchanges of ideas and performances. This evening will feature Dwandalyn Reece, the museum's Associate Director of Humanities and the curator of the museum's Musical Crossroads exhibition, one of the founding exhibitions which opened the museum. She will lead a wonderful conversation with Bill C. Banfield, Research Associate with the Smithsonian Center for Folklife and Cultural Studies, and Professor Emeritus and Director of the Africana Studies at the Berklee School of Music in Boston. Joining Bill will be Ernie Isley, songwriter and virtuoso guitarist of the iconic Isley Brothers. Over the evening, we'll learn about their 8-decade-long career and the whole span of this award-winning and enduring group, and Ernie's great contributions to their legacy. In the past 25 years, Bill Banfield has produced an incredible body of music, scholarship, books, compositions, recordings, establishing a wonderful student and music mentorship for so many of today's most popular musicians. Philosopher and theologian Cornel West has referred to Bill as one of the last grand Renaissance men of our time, a towering artist, exemplary educator, rigorous scholar, and courageous freedom fighter. He's also just infectiously enthusiastic and such a great colleague for so many of us. Bill's works have been commissioned, performed, and recorded by orchestras ranging from the National, Atlanta, Minneapolis, and Detroit symphonies to the Havana Camerata of Cuba. His music has been performed or recorded by George Duke, Patrice Rushen, Ron Carter, Delphio Marcellus, Terry Lynn Carrington, and Regina Carter, both of whom have performed on Smithsonian stages. So we're especially pleased to have Bill with us tonight. Ernest Isley, guitarist and songwriter for the Isley Brothers, started playing drums at 12 and had his first live gig at 14 with his family. He is the bass guitarist on some really wonderful hits. It's Your Thing, recorded at 16, the same age that he bought his first guitar. Between 1970 and 72, he played rhythm lead guitar on Isley Brothers records, including songs such as The Ohio Machine Gun, Love the One You're With, and Work to Do. He is the guitarist on such hits as Who's That Lady and Summer Breeze. And between 1973 and 1983, he played lead and rhythm guitars, drums, and was an active songwriter as part of the 3+3 Isley Brothers lineup, recording such notable albums as 3+3, Live It Up, The Heat Is On, featuring Fight the Power, Harvest for the World, Go for Your Guns, and Showdown. He continues to perform with his brother, Ronald. Ernie is inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Songwriters Hall of Fame, and is a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award winner. So please join me in a warm welcome for Dwandalyn Reece, Bill Banfield, and Ernie Isley.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I promise you're in for a treat. with our special guests here, Mr. Isley and Dr. Banfield, for some wonderful conversation and some music, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, this is really a great opportunity to have this program here at the museum. And I know, Bill, comes from a long association that you've had with Ernie and some of your work here at the Smithsonian, which I will turn to you to talk about in a minute. But I just want to emphasize, and the word that we're going to be using a lot today is through lines. And that's the title of a book that Bill will tell you a little more about, cultural through lines, that has this interview with Ernie Isley in it, along with other essays. I like the theme of through lines. You know, is my role as curator in developing the music exhibit and building the collection. I was very interested, and I thought it was really important to reflect the depth and breadth of African American music. And so much of that, you know, I jokingly tell people that it was never meant to be a Hall of Fame, but more so to really tell the story of African American musicians and music making in a way that captures the history, but also the evolution, and where audiences and from all over the world can see that history in the present day. So we are lucky to have an artist who has traversed the decades and sure has a lot of wisdom and experience to share with us as a music maker who is still making hits in how many decades? 8 decades. 8 decades. And I hope that we can learn from him and what he has to say and what he's contributed. But Bill, I'm going to turn to you to talk about the impetus behind this project and what you were trying to accomplish.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here. It's good to see you. Hello, DC, as they say. It's good to be here, DC. As Dwandalyn was speaking, she reminded me so much of the importance of what history is for us. In this particular time in our culture, we are continuing to move forward, and part of that moving forward is to be very, very much aware of what has come before, so that we can talk about where we are and then make some leaps about where we want to go, and that's great. And it's great to have Ernie Isley here to help us do that. As Dwandalyn said, I'm a research assistant associate over at the Folklife Institute, and part of the discussion that we begin to have is that I would also get a wonderful opportunity to work with Deirdre and Dwandalyn and the whole team over here to curate concerts and talks, and to do the kind of thing that we're doing today. So the very first thing that was really wonderful to Dwandalyn is she opened up, embraced everybody. So we just want to let our shoulders down a little bit. And, you know, we've been talking about how we would do this. Ernie and I have been having this talk for a number of years about his life, about the Isleys, and the contributions of that music. And one of the things that she's talking about is a collection of Ernie and I decided before the pandemic that we would do a biography on his life. And it would connect his life and to what it is like growing up Isley. And we're going to talk about that. And he's got a lot to say about that. So you want to hear from me. So, but I think in the spirit of that, it's a family talk. Because his family started talking about, he'll tell you about this, what if we had some sons? Okay? It starts there. And what if our sons could be the background band for you and I? This is the mother and father. So she said, that's quite wonderful thinking. And the Isley brothers came out of that conversation. So it's a family conversation, so we're really great to have Ernie here. One of the things that I was invited to do was to do some research that pulled all this together, the history, the culture. And what Dwandalyn is talking about is the notion of through lines, that in culture, it's linked with these experiences and these personalities, and you can link it. When you're talking about African American culture, you're talking about the griot tradition. Song, wisdom, history, culture, magnificence, excellence, coming through the music, and the music and the griots being critical to how the community moved forward. So musicians and artistry tied to the way in which we live is a part of the African diasporic tradition, and we have it in our American tradition. It's in the Cuba, and it's in West Africa, and it's in Brazil, and it's all over the world as well too. But the African American story is very interesting because we use music and our ideas to link that in through lines. So Ernie is a through line. Ernie is a through line because they started in the 1950s, but I think they just did a Beyonce tune recently. She did your tune? You see what I'm saying, right? So I think what we want to talk about is to let Ernie help us see that through line from the 1950s on up to us today. And the first question I think we want to ask Ernie is just, what was it like growing up being an Isley brother?
Fun. Fun because I had a chance to see the members of my family perform in a darkened theater, and they would start doing this song, and everybody lost it. You know, you make me wanna kick my heels up and throw my head. Everybody knows that song. That song is everywhere. Weddings, baseball games, Super Bowls. That song is Animal House. You know, it's a theme song. The All-American Party song, everybody knows it. And that breakthrough hit was 1959, when I was 7 years old. All right? And not too long after that was Shake It Up, Baby, Shake It Up, Baby, Twist and Shout, Twist and... That's 1962. The Beatles did Shout and Twist and Shout before they came to America, okay? The first song that they sang at their Shea Stadium concert, the Beatles, Shake It Up, Baby, Shake It Up. And we were sitting there like, wow. You know, I remember seeing not too long ago, President-elect Obama was sitting in front of the Lincoln Memorial. And he and his wife and Vice President and his wife and Garth Brooks was performing. And he came out there and he put his acoustic guitar down and he took off his cowboy hat. And he said, well, I was like, oh my God. You know, you make me wanna, and everybody's hand went up. Shout on the mall. I was like, man, if my daddy was here to see this, he'd be doing cartwheels, you know. And that song was like the first one in the beginning. We've had tons of hits and tons of musical support, thanks to folks like you all through the years. This Old Heart of Mine. It's your thing. Oh, do what you want to do. No, you know. Yeah, that's 1969, you know. And I was playing bass on that record. 1963, make a long story short, my brothers hired in March of '63 a left-handed guitar player, Jimi Hendrix. He came to live in our home. I was 11 years old at the time. Marvin was 10. They got him his first Fender guitar. his first recording situation in a professional studio was with my brothers. Did a song called Testify, and he did a guitar solo on it. After the Beatles, when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan for the first time, I'm sitting on the left-hand side of the couch, Marvin sitting on the right-hand side of the couch, and Jimi Hendrix is in the middle between us. And Ed Sullivan said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!" And everybody lost it. But you see, at that time, you know, there was no crystal ball. You can't see the future. You don't know that the guy sitting on the couch is eventually going to be a electric guitar deity. A few days after that, there was a meeting at a band, and my eldest brother Kelly took the floor, and he said, "You know what? This English band, that's legit. That's not hype. They have turned the page of music. Now, I think we're going to be all right because they do shout and twist and shout. Now, they got 2 guitar players, but we got Jimi." And that was just the way he said it. "But we got Jimi." And I looked over at Jimi when he said that, and Jimi was grinning ear to ear. Of course, had he been around when That Lady came out in '73, he'd be laughing. Why is he laughing? Ernie was the one in the room with me, not saying anything. Had doing homework or something like that. But Ernie was the one in the room with me. And when that record came out, "That's Jimi." It's like, no, it's not. "Yeah, but didn't Jimi live in their house for about 2.5 years?" "Yes." "Wasn't he on the records?" "Yes, but that's not Jimi." "Who is that?" "That's Ernie."
And yes, everybody, give that up. I'm gonna, no, we're gonna keep you here for a long time, so you gotta sit back down. This is gonna be a wonderful story. I'm glad chronologically, so everybody's with the timeline now, right? So let's start with Hendrix. So I grew up looking at Hendrix. That was my hero. And then my next guitar hero was Ernie Isley. So when we started talking about, I don't know, somewhere in the pandemic, we started having these talks. And we said, we're going to continue to talk about this. And what I've been learning about is this history through the griot here in terms of the timeline and through line we're talking about. So we're in the 60s now. We're going to go into the 70s now. And the band is doing its thing. But I think people don't know this thing, that the band was famous and you were still young at home. And you're in college. Let's start there. He's in music school, in college. Your brothers are on the radio. And all the kids are saying, they don't know that you're an Isley. So what is it like being in college and your big brothers are famous and you want to be a musician with them too and you're younger? Talk about that experience.
It was an adventure. It was fun. I had a chance to be a hot shot guitar player on the weekends, with 3+3 and That Lady and Summer Breeze. Our professors did not know that we were on the radio. And when they found that out, they were like, "Wait a minute. You guys are sitting in my class listening to me and you're on the radio?" It's like, "Yeah." I said, they just blew their minds. And when I would say, "I'm not going to be able to come to class on Friday," I said, "Why not?" "I got a show in Miami on Friday, and then I got a show in Houston on Saturday, and then they got a show maybe in Santa Fe on Sunday. So I'll be back in class on Monday or Tuesday. And they were like, that's fine. That's fine. For you, that's fine. You know, so I mean, you know, they let me and Marvin and Chris, you know, they let us go. But we were in class learning music and at the same time on the radio. And it was a very exciting time, a lot of adventure. And I didn't have any girlfriends in high school. Zippity-doo-dah. And well, the first time being in Philadelphia playing drums at 14, we had out This a Heart of Mine. And also that night, Martha and the Vandellas were on the show, and they didn't have a drummer, and they wanted me to sit in and play with them. So I did. And after the Isleys finished, my eldest brother handed me a $50 bill, I'm 14, handed me a $50 bill and said, go get a hot dog. I was like, get out of here. So I still had my stage clothes on, and I went through the backstage doors, and there were about 12 or 14 girls my age that screamed at me like I was Justin Bieber. I was like, oh, man, that's him. He was just up there playing drums. Oh, like your clothes. Oh, you're so cute. How old are you? What's your name? Blah, blah, blah. You know, all this stuff. Man, I was like, man, I need to move to Philly. Because I don't get this kind of action in my school, not at all. And later on, I know when we had 3+3 out, and I'd be backstage warming up and I have my stage clothes, and I hear a voice behind me, hi, Ernie. And I turn around and see this gorgeous, it's like, my God. Why wasn't I doing this sooner? But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Whole thing's been a lot of fun and adventure.
Well, it's interesting that we're getting this journey forward because we wouldn't have known the earlier, younger narrative. Mm-hmm. So let's move this forward historically now. Now, I thought it was really interesting. We were driving down a car down the street, and somebody had on War. And I said, hey, I said, man, that it was slipping into darkness. Dun, 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 dun. I said, oh, man, that sounds so good. He said, oh, yeah, thanks. He said, that's great music back then. I said, do you know who I have in the car now? He said, who? I said, it's Ernie Isley. He said, I thought that was Ernie Isley. He said, those guys did the best music during the best time. So the best time then becomes the emergence of Motown in the 60s. Now we're moving to the 70s, and music begins to have a social agenda, a social political.
Yeah, and you say somewhere in the book, and I'm very interested in the 70s because that's my childhood, but, and I think it's understudied, you know, as far as its influence on music, but you said somewhere that really black popular music in the 70s really ushered in the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And I'd love both of you to kind of talk about that period of time, the flourishing and what was going on.
Mm-hmm. I'll immediately go to the master here. Yes, we grew up in a time when music mattered because it has something to say. Not only was it great music, like the guy was talking about War and Earth, Wind, and Fire and Isley Brothers and Stevie Wonder and all the great music that was going on, but it was music that had something to say for the times. And we looked to Bob Dylan and we looked to all of the musicians to say what was needed to say, what needed to be said. And that, for me as a young person coming up with music, I wanted to play it, but I also wanted my music to say something because I wanted to emulate what the Isley Brothers were doing. And both of our questions to you is, what was it like understanding that your music had impact?
Astounding.
Yeah.
It was astounding because you know, after we did, we were doing songs like, I got work to do. And love the one you're with. And when we did that lady, and then after that, in '75, we did Fight the Power. And when we did Fight the Power, I could tell everything about us changed.
Wow.
We had a different image. It's like you do a song like Fight the Power, and we didn't say the word love one time in it. With all this, you know. So, did you hear what they said? Who said Isley? Said, oh my God. So, everybody was listening. Teddy Pendergrass was listening. Gladys Knight. Teddy Pendergrass came into our dressing room. You know, they had out Bad Luck.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that's what you got. Yeah, he came into our dressing room, and he literally hit his knees, and he said, "Man, I told Harold Melvin. I said, man, them damn Isley brothers, they done it again." So have you heard what they? He hadn't yet heard the song yet, but Teddy hit his knees, and my eldest brothers, you know, eldest brother Kelly was laughing so hard he had tears rolling down his face. It's so much praise, you know, and so much admiration that was expressed, and you know, we musically we were just pursuing the music and trying to express what we were feeling, and you know, Fight the Power, and we also had on that album For the Love of You.
That's right.
Later on, let's see, Harvest for the World. We had Harvest for the World. We had a song that we didn't release as a single that turned out Aaliyah did some years later. Yeah. At Your Best, You Are Love.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I wrote that one. Wrote Fight the Power too. but you know, we just kept pursuing the music. I go fast forward. I was driving La Brea, headed towards Sunset Boulevard, and I had my radio on, and I heard somebody say, "I love it when you call me Big Papa. I throw your hand in the air and use a true player." I said, "What is he talking about?" Because I see some ladies tonight that you'll be having my baby. I started laughing. I said, whoever that is, the first time I heard it, whoever that is, they're going to have a hit. It's something to be bigger than ours. And it was. Yeah. Thank you, Biggie.
That's right.
Between the Sheets, and I know there was a cover done on it. Whitney Houston did a cover. Whitney Houston also did For the Love of You. Yeah. But we had a lot of folks listening to our music, and at that time with the technology, it came into the sample thing. What was it? Ice Cube. Today was a good day. I didn't have to use my AK. I'm like, what? And he was using Footsteps in the Dark, you know.
I love. I had to just not to let them on that same note share with them. I think now we're talking about how the younger musicians are going back and sampling. All right, so here's the through line. Yeah. Here's the griot tradition. They're going back now and getting your music. Yeah. But I love the Biggie Small story. Yeah. When you went to tell everybody that story about the radio station.
Oh, we were in New York. Big radio station that played hip hop. The only three artists they played, it wasn't hip hop, was Isley's, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Stevie Wonder. And we got to this radio station, and this guy said, "Man, you won't believe this. I played Between the Sheets a few days ago, and this guy called into the station, and he said, "Oh, look, man, I don't understand why the Isleys decided to sing over top of Biggie, you know, to sing over top of his records, you know what I'm saying? I respect the Isleys and all that, man. You know, I like their stuff, but, you know, they shouldn't have done it like that." The guy was on the radio laughing. He said, "Look, my brother, you go down to Virgin Megastore, go into the section of find ISLAY. You'll see a CD in there. It's called Between the Sheets. That came out in 1983. Biggie borrowed from them. They did not borrow from Biggie." He said, "Oh, okay, man, thanks. Peace out." And hung up, hung up the phone. We were all cracking up. Oh, God. Folks, you know, they don't necessarily know where some of their music comes from. And it turns out that a whole lot of it, thanks to the technology and, you know, what the folks like, a whole lot of it has come from our catalog.
Yeah.
We just did last year another song that I had written, Make Me Say It Again, Girl, that has a duet with Ronald and Beyonce. And it was like #1 for like 9 consecutive weeks. Oh, never would have imagined that. And recently was Jay-Z's mom had a birthday, and they wanted us to perform. And we did. And after the show, here comes Jay-Z and Beyonce in our dressing room. Oh, oh. She was like, "Ernie, you guys were just wonderful tonight. You know, and the fact that you did Make Me Say It Again, Girl," I was like, you know, Beyonce, what you did with the song, you know, you raised the bar and then you jumped over it. You know, thank you so much. And they were very highly complimentary and supportive of our work.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you have another question?
I do, but do you have a thought in mind?
I have lots of thoughts. I mean, I'm sitting with Ernie Isley. Come on. I have to tell you some jokes. I have to warm this up. So, yeah. So, and then, Dwan, please keep us moving on here. But I have to tell this. So we've been doing this, but I wanted to come to DC. I said, "Ernie, I don't think we've been on stage with a live audience. We've done some talks over the last few years." I said, "But we're going to DC. How should I dress?" You know what he said? "You got to get some leather pants." So I said, right? That's the first thing. I said, "Ernie, I don't have any." This is last night before this. I said, "I don't think I'm going to be able to get some leather pants. So what's next?" He said, "Make sure your shirt is interesting." And of course, there's the jewelry that you have to wear to be on stage with Ernie Isley. I just say that for fun because the music is also fashion and culture, and it's the way in which you reach to people and you set standards. And I think one of the questions I wanted to ask, I'm going to throw it back now, I'm talking now, you can throw it back to Dwan, is what was the conversations like between you and Michael Jackson, and you and Prince, and you and Earth, Wind, and Fire, and you and all, because you all were having these conversations about how you were impacting the culture. What were those conversations like?
1978, we were at a CBS record convention, and Ronald and I came downstairs to the dinner, and I may have gotten down there maybe 20 minutes or so before him. And when I came in, I saw a group of people had on like powder blue tuxedos. And there was a little girl who had on a boa. It turned out that was Janet. And she might have been about 9 or 10 at the time. And I went to sit down, and I wasn't sitting down too long, and somebody tapped me on my arm. I turned around. Hi, Ernie. It was Michael. Hi, Ernie. So, hey, Michael, how you doing? Is it all right if I sit down? I said, come on, man. So he sat down there, and we talked a little bit, and then he said, Ernie, do you think you could introduce me to your brother, Ronald? I said, man, you know, Ronald's not going to bite you, man. He knows who you are and vice versa. You can go over there. Well, I don't want to do it in case, you know, he might be thinking about something. He might be busy. I said, okay, I'll go over there. And I went to my brother's table, and it's like something out of The Godfather. And I leaned over and I said, you know, Ronald, Michael Jackson wants to come by and say hello. Is it all right? Ronald said, yeah, it's all right. So I went back to my table where Michael was sitting, and I literally took him by the hand like he was about 6 years old, and I walked him over to Ronald's table, and I said, Michael Jackson, Ronald Isley. Ronald Isley, Michael Jackson. And the three of us busted out laughing. It's like, oh, what? You know, we just busted out, holding our stomach laughing. And I left him. And Michael was sitting at the table the rest of the night with Ronald, and just the two of them. And I said, as the evening was drawing to a close, I said, what was the conversation like? He said, oh, man, he wanted us to come over to the house tonight. He wanted us to be the manager. He wanted us to write some songs for him. He was asking me all kind of advice that I might have. And I said, what'd you tell him? I said, Michael, whatever you all are going to do, you're going to have to discover that for yourself. And nobody can tell you. But I'm quite sure that you're going to be able to find what you should be doing. And later on that year in 78, they had, don't blame it on the sunshine, don't blame it on the moonlight, don't blame it on the good time, blame it on the boogie. And the record after that was, let's dance, let's shout, shake your body down to the ground, let's dance, let's shout, shake your body down to the ground. That went number one. And it was after that it was decided we're going to do a Michael Jackson album, and we're going to call it Off the Wall. The rest is history.
Yeah.
Just, we looked around and said, oh, Michael, you, wow, And then after that, of course, was Thriller. But, they did not know what they were going to be doing at the time. But, it's something that every artist, if it's in their destiny, they discover. And, of course, it wasn't too long after that Janet got involved doing her thing. And I recently saw the brothers a few weeks ago. And I think Tito was there, but he was still alive at the time. And three or four of them were around. And I said, hey, man, come here. I said, I just wanted to tell y'all that after, what you guys were doing at the Jackson 5, that was great. But I said, after Janet got involved in what she was doing, I stopped calling y'all the Jacksons. They said, yeah. I said, you know what I started calling y'all? I said, what? I said, the Corleones. Because you got somebody in your family that is Michael. Wow. And they're like, oh, Ernie, thanks so much, man. I said, no, I don't call y'all the Jacksons no more. I call you the Corleones. I said, y'all, it's just, incredible what you have accomplished.
I'm going to pivot, and then which is going to lead to our first musical interlude. But I wanted to talk, Ernie, a little bit, wanted to get back to Jimi Hendrix, but I wanted to talk about your own artistry as a guitarist. What were your influences, and how would you describe evolving your own sound?
I heard this song by Jose Feliciano called Light My Fire. It was a Doors song. But when I heard it, it was all acoustic. He had these gorgeous chords. He put the lyric out there real plain. And I thought to myself, if there's just one song I could learn how to play on guitar, it would be Light My Fire, the way Jose Feliciano performed it. And then that was one song. The other song that I did was Classical Gas. And the other song I did, let's see, Love is Blue. And, I just went after it, went after the instrument like that. That was, I got my first guitar it was like September of '68. And we had a rehearsal for a song we were going to do that Ronald came up with. He came to the front door. He said, I got this idea for a song. I said, let's hear it. And he said, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. Now, I can't tell you who to sock it to. And he stopped. And Marvin was there, and Kelly was there, and I was there. And I said something like, I like the fact that you said, that you did not say, sock it to me. You said, I can't tell you who to sock it to. He never said sock it to me, and it's your thing. And we began to get the song together. The guitar player on that record was a guy named Skip Charles Pitts. He played guitar on that record. He also was the guy playing the wah-wah guitar on Isaac Hayes' Shaft. And, everything that we tried with It's Your Thing, as far as the music was concerned, worked. The horn parts worked, the keyboard part worked. I was playing the bass, that worked. Everything worked. And then when it came out, it was like, kaboom, it's been the biggest 45 Isley Brothers career. But, I started to learn how to play, and eventually, we did like a version of It's Too Late. We did Ohio Machine Gun. And then, when we got ready to do an album in the spring of '73, Ronald said, we're gonna do Who's That Lady? And I said, no, man, that's a cha-cha bossa nova. He said, we're gonna change the tempo, we're gonna change the melody, we're gonna change the lyric, and you are gonna play lead guitar on it. And I said, okay. And when we did it, and I got the sound in the studio, and the first note I hit on the lead guitar, the song went sound-wise from black and white to 3D Technicolor. And I played it like instrumental, and I was like all over the place. I had one foot on earth and the other on Mount Olympus, playing the guitar. Wow, I'm playing again. You know, my eldest brother Kelly he was looking at me, he didn't blink for 45 minutes, just staring. And it was like, you got to do it again to make room for the vocals. I said, the vocals? Are you crazy? You can put it out just like that, say Isley Brothers, ain't nobody be a hit. Nobody disagreed. Ernie, do it again. So I did a second take. The second take is what's on the record, from beginning to end. And that was it. And I was like, okay, now, I don't like it. I was like, what are you talking, man, get out of here. We come back to it in a couple of days. And we did, and when I heard it, I was glad that they didn't erase it. But the first take was better.
Well,
Have any of the music in the house?
that I don't know. Oh, you meant for some examples, just so we can hear?
Yeah.
Well, another time, but why don't you two go up and play a song,
All right.
since we're talking about playing?
I'll catch it. Yep, okay, I'll hold the guitar. Wow! That's beautiful, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Wow. Oh, you can ask it. You ready? Yeah, you got it? You're going to also use your mic. Yep. Yep. Because we have to hear those lyrics. Now, I think the one thing we hadn't talked about, but in order to make this a real family thing, guess what? Y'all have to sing. So you can join in the verse. You got it? Okay. All right. All right. Tempo, sir.
You said it.
Oh, really? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, baby's together. Everyone's a seed. Half of us are satisfied. Half of us in need. Love's bountiful in us. Punished by our greed. Oh, when will there be a harvest for the world? Oh, yeah. Nation planet, so concerned with gain. As the seasons come and go, greater grows the pain. For too many are feeling the strain. Oh, when will there be a harvest for the world? All right. dress me up for better, better. All I want is peace. Those of us who pay the price come home with the least. Nation after nation turning into beasts. Oh, and will there be a harvest for the world? Or when will there be? I wanna know right now. When will there be a harvest? When will there be a harvest? Everybody, talking about your children. When will there be? All right. When will there? All right. You know, I have to say that the concept of the Isley Brothers was that of a vocal group. And before I was born, I had 4 brothers. O'Kelly Isley Jr., Rudolph Bernard Isley, Ronald Isley, Vernon Isley. Vernon, between Vernon and I was 9 years. He was born in, I believe, 43. And I came along in 1952. And Marvin came after me in 1953. Now, they would have remained quartet, but as I guess fate would have it, Vernon was riding his bike to school one day and was struck and killed at the age of 11. And shut it down. And when they came back, it was the 3 of them, Kelly, Rudolph, and Ronald. And you know, you don't really have any knowledge or control over what the Heavenly Father has in mind, but that's the way it went. And frankly, sometimes I can hear the quartet.
Yeah, it's also interesting talking to you and remembering the music. There was always this spiritual base. It's always there in the music. We talk about the social, political piece, but people don't know that the group started out as a gospel family group.
Yes.
So did that sense of what your parents gave you, did that continue to be a core of what was the thing that thrust the Isleys forward?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that was, I guess, one of the things that a lot of other groups went after the Isleys, not knowing that if you talk about some people, you know, they may want to go as far as the Beatles, but the Isleys are in the roots of the Beatles. And I ran into, a few years ago, I ran into Paul McCartney, and I tapped him on his arm. He stood up at his full height and gave me a bear hug, just about cut my wind off. Both of us are yelling in each other's ear at the same time, and I said, you know, like, Paul, you and Ringo, George, John, you guys are just wonderful. And he said, Ernie, in my ear at the same time, he said, Ernie, if it were not for the Isley Brothers, the Beatles would still be in Liverpool.
Wow. Wow.
And then he went on stage and said that. And then we did, for the first time, Isleys and a Beatle, we did Twist and Shout together. And it was amazing, you know. Don't. Everybody standing up yelling and cheering. And it's like, do something else. It's like, you can't do anything else after that. We can't do anything else after that. And 2014, we received Lifetime Grammy Achievement Award, and for the Isleys. And also that year, the Beatles received Lifetime Grammy Achievement Award. And as I was coming down towards the stage, I walked past Yoko and Olivia Harrison and Ringo. And I was pointing at Ringo the whole time. And he's grinning and he started pointing at me. And when we had a chance to talk, he said, Ernie, Isley Brothers, you guys helped us find our stride when we were trying to get started. I said, thank you. You know, and they were all very gracious and kind.
I don't know what the time is. I know we have to talk to the audience. Audience has a lot of questions. But I think one of the things that I think the audience should know, at some point while I was there, as the director of black music at Berklee, and your good friend who's an engineer brought you the first time, Carl.
Carl Baby.
And we started having this thing. You come to my classes, and we started hanging. This was when this conversation started. And I think what's important for the audience to understand is not only are we talking about the period that we're talking about, which is great, we're talking about all the history, but it's important to pass along these things to the younger generation. So I want to kind of pivot into this generation now. And as Dwandalyn and I talking open with the audience to talk about that, your relationship to this generation, I'd like to hear, I think the audience want to hear, what do you think about, you know, Taylor Swift and Bruno Mars and Kendrick Lamar, and, you know, how do you, and if they had to come to you, like so many great musicians have come to you before, what would you tell this generation? I would imagine that there's some younger people out here too. You all are younger. No, of course you are. That might have questions about this, because I think we're trying to figure out what kind of examples can we set, what kinds of conversations are we having with this generation that could fire them up to say something. I'm not saying they aren't. Are they saying things with the music today? Uh-oh, it wasn't an enthusiastic, yes. Okay, there are things to be said. They are saying things. What would you say to this generation about, you know, encouraging them to be the musicians that you think they could become?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Kendrick Lamar, because Kendrick Lamar did a sample of That Lady, and he had Ronald on there with him. And Kendrick, before he did it, one of the things he said was he had shut himself in a room and was just listening to Isley Brothers before he decided to do what he did. Wow. And that went #1 for him. And I think that you just mentioned the biggest star in the world.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, the football boyfriend. But you know, it's their turn.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's actually their turn. Just like when Beyonce turned around and did "Make Me Say It Again," girl. It was like I said that Beyonce, you know what you did? You raised the bar and then you jumped over it. Thank you so much. And you know, she was very gracious, and so was Jay-Z talking about what's the song? Isley Brothers' "Voyage to Atlantis."
Yeah.
And I think, you know, sometimes there's things that don't necessarily come over the microphone, but the folks that do the music, I think they are listening, and they can incorporate it in whatever way that they decide. And that's a good thing. I just hope that folks, you know, they have a reference point and they go to it and they lean on it.
Yeah.
And it can certainly help them with whatever they call themselves trying to do musically.
Is there, I want to go back to the 8 decades, and I'm always interested about artists, how, I don't want to paint relevance like getting a top hit, but you have a certain degree of longevity. And how have you evolved and changed across the decades? I think we got to the 70s, but are there signature moments or things that you've learned from newer artists or about yourself as a musician as times have changed?
I know after I heard Marvin Gaye was going to do this song, and the title was "Sexual Healing," and I had on occasion, you know, time to talk with Marvin Gaye, and when I heard he had a song called "Sexual Healing," I was thinking, how is he going to say that? You know, how is he going? And then when I heard the record, I was like, see, that's him. And not too long after that, we turned around. Make a long story short, I got inspired and came up with something called "Between the Sheets." And when Marvin Gaye heard that, Ronald was on the phone congratulating him about sexual healing. You know, he had just won the Grammy, you know, a couple of Grammys. And Marvin said, man, never mind that. How did you all come up with "Between the Sheets"? That is just out of here. And so, man, thank you so much. Thank you. But, you know, you just be listening to each other. And, you know, there's a way to just for there to be some sort of a connection so that when we did "Between the Sheets," and, you know, Biggie Smalls heard it, everybody heard it. I don't know how many times it was sampled or re-recorded, you know, but there was a lot of people leaning on that song, you know, and it allowed them to have a hit. You know, some people didn't know that, oh, "Between the Sheets" is Isley? Oh, we thought that was Biggie. It's like, no, it's not Biggie. That's Isley. That's where he got it from, you know. And so it's a nice thing to be heard in that way, and, you know, find that you're being listened to and appreciated by current generation, you know, coming into their own.
Wow. That's very rich.
Mhm.
That's very rich. I think that it's becomes so important, like you're saying, to know that the musicians are talking about styles and messages, and also talking among the generations. That's whatever we can do to make that happen seems to be the way that we can move this forward. That there's, like you say, they have their time to do, but that we have to have an embrace. Don't you think, Dwan,
Yeah.
across
Oh,
that generational
yeah,
divide?
absolutely, absolutely. Um, I was wondering, if we could talk about the industry a little bit. That has changed dramatically. And I wanted to see what your sense of some of the losses and gains you see, and not that you can predict for the future, but where we are with the music industry and what's available to us from songwriting to auto-tune to all of these things. The spectacle performance is dramatically different than what it was in days gone by.
Well, I think the auto-tune thing, um, for some people, is a stumbling block because they're not trying to sing. They're doing what they're doing, and by way of they're doing what they're doing, and by the way that they're performing, it's like they're not actually singing. And when you think of all of the great singers, particularly the females, Aretha Franklins and the Chaka Khans and the Whitney Houston, Tina Turner. Wow, it's like these ladies, went out there and went after it and got something, and it sounds like them. And I think if for the generation coming, that's going to be a challenge for them to sound like themselves. I mean, okay, so you sound like Chaka Khan, but Chaka Khan sounds like Chaka Khan. What do you sound like? I say that with guitar players. A guy come up to me and say, Ernie, I sound just like Carlos Santana. I say, yeah. Hey, man, that's a great thing, but Carlos sounds like Carlos. What you're going to have to do is discover what you sound like with the instrument. And when you do that, that's your entry into what you're hoping to accomplish.
Well, I'm going to invite audience members. I think there are cards out there if you want to write questions, and I have a few here, so if I may. What trend in music today do you find most inspiring, and what would you like to see next?
Most inspiring? Right now at the top of the game right now at the top of the game are Beyonce and Taylor Swift, really. They are huge. And they leave a pretty big footprint for somebody to try to follow them. And if you feel as a performer that you have something to say and you go after it, then it's possible that there may be another name that is called beside either one of those two. But they are, 16 tons. It's like if the right one don't get you, the left one will. They're just amazing.
Okay, here's another question. Do you think the Versus battle with Earth, Wind, and Fire helped younger listeners discover your music?
Do I think what?
The Versus battle that you did with Earth, Wind, and Fire helped?
That was so much fun.
Versus, oh.
Versus. That was so much fun because I told them, I said, man, when we were out on the road as the Isleys, after every after party, we would have on That's the Way of the World. So folks would come see the Isley Brothers perform, and they come to an after party and they walk in and hear, "You're a shining star, no matter who you're." Isley Brothers are in here listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's like, yeah, we are, man. And we were buying a new, CD or a record or something like that every week because somebody would take them, So, we were buying, I don't know how many That's Where the World's that we bought the summer of '75, but, we were listening to them, and then we have a great admiration and appreciation for them, and vice versa. They know our stuff, and we know theirs.
Okay. Here are two questions here. What was your favorite performance? I don't know if that's on stage. And do you have a favorite Isley Brothers song?
Oh, it's like, fingers on your hand. If you pick one, then, there's another four that you leave off in terms of Isley Brothers. I think I do like Footsteps in the Dark. Between the Sheets. Of course, Shout. Ronald always says, before we do Shout, he'll say earlier in the show, some of y'all don't know me. Y'all know me as Mr. Biggs, but y'all may not know me, but your grandmother does, your baby wanna kick my heels up, and it's like everybody, So that's the way that goes.
Another question. Did the Isley Brothers write most of their own music?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's what made it so different. At Motown, it was considered the kiss of death. If you were an artist at Motown and you left, that was considered the kiss of death for your career. The first artist that ever had a hit at Motown and left and had a bigger hit, Isley. Because you had This a Heart of Mine, and then a little time went by and you came back with oh, and Michael Jackson, the Temptations. It's like everybody over there sang It's Your Thing. But the career of the Isleys went on after This a Heart of Mine. It, even bigger. I know Ronald was saying when we did 3+3 with that lady, the Isley Brothers were bigger than the Temptations. It's like, yeah, that's right. And we were writing our stuff. We didn't have, as great as they were, we didn't have Holland, Dozier and Holland like the Supremes did, or like the Four Tops did, But that would have been a difficult thing for Mr. Gordy to keep that level of talent under one roof. So, they did it for quite some time, and they had a ton of hits, but, and as we started doing what we were doing in '69, Stevie Wonder started to break away from what he had been doing. Marvin Gaye started in 1971, did What's Going On. Started to break away, and it's like, man, these guys, I didn't know they could, you didn't know they could do that because with the hits that they had. But they kept going.
This person also wants to know, where do you think music is going after rap and hip hop?
Oh, man, you got to have a crystal ball to see that. You got to have a crystal ball and like a flying carpet, and I don't know what else, because where it's going. I hope that, in many ways, I hope they discover or rediscover, some of the songs that we did, you know. When we had the song Work to Do, and we did a show once with the Average White Man, and they came backstage before we went on and said hello, and they said, hey, is it all right if we do Work to Do in front of y'all? I'm like, yeah, man, we don't have a problem with that, And they went out there and they did it, and Ringo Starr does it, Work to Do. We have any number of songs that other people do. I think Twist and Shout has a very strong emotional connection to the Beatles because that was before they were 4 individuals. They were a group, and they did that song, and it's like singing Happy Birthday, and everybody knows it, and it's great that we do have that connection or connections like that.
I'm going to ask one more question before we ask you to do another song for us, because since we're predicting again. This question, had Jimi Hendrix lived, how do you think his sound would have evolved, especially in the 2000s, or 2010s, or 2020?
He would have been playing with us.
Okay.
Of course he would, because it'd be like, I lived in their home for like 2.5 years. They got me my first Fender guitar. He was never charged for his room. He was never charged for his food. And like I said, Ernie, he'd be laughing. He said, Ernie was the one in the room with me. So, why does Ernie sound like that? Or why does he? Because, and my brother Kelly would have him in the corner of a room, in the corner of the front door like he used to have him, and poking him in the ribs. I told you, man, Ernie was trying to. And Jimmy would just be laughing. Because we used to laugh when Jimmy would play, not because it was funny, because it was good, And, sometimes I hear questions about him, and whenever I think about him, I'm 11 years old and I'm not a musician. But I know that the person that I saw and heard watching Saturday morning cartoons, Super Chicken and Bugs Bunny and other stuff that we were doing, the person that I heard, nobody comes near him. Now, come on, if I was gonna, be like I'm gonna play with Jimmy, I automatically become 11 years old, and I'm in the room with him, and it's a spirit thing. A lot of people give credit to the creation, but not to the creator. And the creator is the one ultimately responsible. So in that way, that would be my connection. The creator, not the creation. Some people say, oh, Jimmy was like this and Jimmy was like that. And yeah, guys, but in 1963, what was he? He's part of the creator that was with him, that allowed him to play like he played, that allowed him to be left-handed. Hello. How did you play like that? Because he's gifted, he's touched. It's divine input into things. And so like I say, when I think about him, I'm 11 years old. and sitting there with a social studies book, you know, but not doing social studies.
With that, will you play us another song?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Is this when everybody has to stand up with their lighters?
Yeah.
Yes?
Drifting on a memory. Ain't no place I'd rather be than with you. Loving you. They will make a way for now. All we'll need is candlelight and a song, soft and low. I'm glad to be here alone with a lover unlike no other. Saying you'll see a new horizon slowly coming into view. Wanna be living for the love of you. Oh, when I'm giving for the love of you. Paradise I have within. Can't feel insecure again. You're the key. Yes, I see. And then I lose my way, using words that try to say what I feel. Love is real. Might as well sign my name. See it better. Time will tell. Does it seem that I've done just about all I can do? Sing, y'all. Wanna be living for the love of you. That I'm giving for the love of you. Wanna be living for the love of you. Thank you, thank you. Really want to thank all of you here and all of the folks, you know, that maybe within the sound of my voice, or maybe they couldn't make it tonight, but you know, you don't have the kind of longevity that we have without the audience that has supported us and listened to us and grown with us, you know, as we went along. That's why I say Ronald would say, you know, some of y'all know me as Mr. Biggs, you know. Some of y'all know me, you know, from This a Heart of Mine or It's Your Thing, you know. But your grandmother knows me. Y'all may not know me like that, but your grandmother knows me because, you know, you made me want to kick my heels up and throw my hand back and kick my heels. It's like, you know, you can't sing that song anywhere without somebody start dancing. And I start clapping their hands. I mean, I've seen it. We've been in hotels, you know, after a show, and maybe there's a wedding going on, you know, and I'll be going upstairs on the elevator, and I hear the music loud, and the doors are like this, and well, you know, and I keep the doors open just to, you know, you make me want to keep my heels up and shout, throw my hands back and shout, hey, 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 shout now, jump up and shout now, jump up and shout. People just be, man, you playing that song for 20 minutes, nonstop, you know. I saw something on my phone once. A lady said that at her wedding, they played Shout once every half hour. It's a celebration, man. You know, celebration is, you know. And as soon as, you know, you might be playing something else, you know, a dance song or whatever, but when you play that one, I mean, I've been at bar mitzvahs. You know, you make me want everybody. You know, they start dancing, start clapping their hands, you laughing and clowning, all that. You know, and you really don't even, song like that, you don't have to dance in tempo. You know, you know, I mean, you don't. You just be out there clapping, the people dancing. And all. Man, it's a great thing, and so God bless each and every one of you.
All right.
For your support.
Thank you. Please give a round of applause for Ernie Isley, Bill Banfield.
Back at you.
And a big thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. I hope you had a good time. Okay.
Does he meet his audience? Or does he,
Want to take them off stage?
Oh, sure. Thank you for coming out tonight, and have a wonderful weekend.